You're tuned to Living Redefined with myself, Sechaba Gqeba. New research suggests evidence of the global great resignation trend is emerging in South Africa as overworked employees are quitting their jobs. Now, the question is why and what are some of the reasons cited behind this global trend, which is finally being witnessed in South Africa? I think more than anything, the one thing that surprised me is that unemployment rates are at an all-time high. So I think the question that I'd like to speak to you before we have our guest and expert on the line is, would you just leave your job, at a time where so many people are scrambling and fighting for opportunities, more so during the pandemic? So we need to get to the bottom of this research. And to help us navigate this conversation, we have Johann van Niekerk, who is the MD of Outsized. Johann, good afternoon and welcome to Living Redefined.
Thank you, Sechaba. It's nice to join you.
All right, let's speak about the intense staff turnover and what we call supposedly the great resignation, and a pattern that we're seeing in South Africa. Talk to us about this. What are the reasons? When did we even pick this up in terms of research?
Yeah, it started in the US a while back, really, when COVID hit, and people were looking at it and saying, well, there's something that's going to come here, and that is that there's going to be a shift. And that's going to be for multiple reasons. Now, it is coming to South Africa. It's not at the same stage that it is in the US. But in the US, what we have is an example of extreme burnout, really, that's been pushing this primarily. And we've been seeing that in South Africa as well. But that's not the only reason. I think what's happened is that people are reassessing their lives. And that can have a number of factors. So they've seen a shift from long commutes to work where they now can work from home. They've seen greater flexibility working at home. They've seen greater trust from their employers to produce output rather than just input of hours. And so what we've seen is that, yes, certainly there is this burnout issue that has multiple factors, really, and it's different at different levels in the economy. But on the other hand, people are seeing opportunity, and especially in the professional segment, there are options. People are suddenly thinking, well, they can reassess their lives. And I think really it's the same on the burnout side. Yes, you make a very valid point about unemployment is high, but you have to prioritize things like health, family, well-being. And there are people who are just getting to a point where they say, I need to take a stand and look after myself.
Now, talk to us about the impact that it's had on companies, and also what sectors are affected more so than others.
Well, we're focused primarily on the financial services sector. I think where it's obviously there are sectors that have been particularly hard hit by COVID. And so we've seen this, there are people who haven't been paid in months, for instance. For them, it's an easy decision to quit because they're going from something where they weren't really drawing an income to hopefully something where they could. In the professional segment, which is where we play, it's early days. What we are seeing is that both on the employer side, a number of employers put in place headcount freezes, so they aren't really hiring new people. And so what you have is both natural attrition, and you have people who are deciding to take a break and either go into independent consulting, and that's something that we see a lot of, or take some sort of sabbatical, or just some time to completely rethink things. And so, you've got two forces at work. You've got the one is that the hiring has in many places ceased or is very slow. And of course, in the current conditions, it's difficult. And then we have the employees who, for multiple reasons, and it's not often just one reason, it's a whole plethora of them, are deciding to make a shift.
This is very interesting. I think for me, reading this and understanding how unemployment rates are at an all-time high, and, I would have assumed people are just gunning to stay where they are if they're not being offered better opportunities. But this is indeed interesting. Johann, talk to us about the supposed leave liability which has been brought on by the pandemic and its role in this pattern.
Well, there's two factors here. There's obviously the employers, and for them, what we've seen is that during COVID-19, people just haven't been taking leave. And so that liability is sitting on the balance sheets, and that's not great for employers, either financially, but also just because employees need to take a break. I think that's been a big problem. Everybody's been, none of us thought we would be in this situation so far down the line. We held on, and we thought we'd stick it out and plan a nice holiday later. And here we are 2 years later, and we haven't been able to take a good break. And that's really where I think the burnout issue is coming through for employees. Many people haven't taken good leave. Pressure at work has increased. Deliverables have remained. Fewer staff available when you have these resignations. It's really a pressure cooker situation.
And don't you find as well that when there are these resignations, then, a lot of the positions are frozen and hiring isn't taking place. So you'll find one person doing the job of 3 people as opposed to one person could be also an additional factor that lends to the situation and outcome.
Absolutely. No, we see this often, and it's often exactly the people you can least afford to lose who are taking that leap. So, that's something that we've been promoting, is that as we see as part of this, what we're calling a great reset. I think that, the great resignation has some very negative connotations and tends to focus on the burnout. But there are many people, as I said, who are seeing this as an opportunity to take a move, to create new careers for themselves that have the flexibility and the empowerment that they're looking for. And those people are available to the economy to do work.
Absolutely. Talk to us about these negative connotations that you are talking to about. Now, we've got this research, we've got the findings. What exactly does this mean for the South African job market at large?
Well, hopefully it doesn't look as bad as the US, but certainly, the negative side is the burnout. And that has been very real. We've heard this from people, as I said, people going without salaries, certain sectors that have been particularly hard hit, the hospitality, the tourism industry, many of the sort of the people earning less who can really least afford to have this happen to them have been the hardest hit. And that's the negative side of it. And yes, that's a very large portion of the great resignation, as they call it. But the great resignation is not one thing, it's multiple things, and everybody has their own reasons. But yes, the negative side of it is really just around this pressure, this lack of taking a break, just feeling at a loss and needing to just escape. And so you're right, sometimes it seems to make no sense that people make that move, but they do.
And now, one interesting thing I read when I was going over the article is that people are changing their jobs in line with their career goals and what is important to them. Do you find that the pandemic has exacerbated the fact that a lot of people are in professions that they actually aren't happy in?
I would maybe clarify that slightly. I think many of them are in jobs that they are not happy in. Or there are aspects of the job that they're not happy in. So there are many people who recognize that they are marketable, that they have skills, that they could very usefully deploy into not say only one employer, but into multiple as independent consultants. But there are then aspects of the job that they are in at the moment that they are not enjoying. I think we've lost that distinction between work and home. And for many, that blurring has become very difficult. We've lost some of the collaboration. I think there's many people who are reassessing their lives in terms of, do they really want to do management, or do they actually just want to be subject matter experts? So there's so many factors in this. We have heard of people making complete career shifts. That obviously is quite risky unless you are a very talented person, but can be done. But I think mostly it's been a case of people deciding to change the way that they do their jobs.
Let's speak about other options, and since we're talking about how people are making these very big decisions so hastily, and seemingly that's why we've come to the conclusion that it's becoming a pattern. What other options can people on the job market just sort of explore, apart from perhaps just saying, you know what, I'm done with this altogether?
Yes, I think this is an important point that you're raising, and that is that when we have this feeling of pressure and the feeling of wanting to escape, there is the temptation to just jump and just get out of it. But obviously, if you don't have a safety net, this is quite risky. And we've had some sad stories of people who just left and they're sitting months later and they have no work. Definitely, you should be looking at what your options are. You should be looking at your network, how you can build out your network. Consider the skills that you have, see how they are deployed in terms of, elsewhere in the market. What is the job market looking like? Is it mainly contract? Is it mainly permanent? What are the platforms like Outsized that you could contact and make use of? One of the things that we're trying to do is inject trust into this facilitation of connecting independent consultants to the companies that need them. Many companies aren't used to making use of that, and that's where we assist the companies. And many people aren't used to moving into independent consulting. But there's also a lot of good material online. You could go onto our website and read up a whole bunch of things there as to how you could make that move in a sensible way. Take your time, like anything, if you can craft a plan, you're just better off.
And I also think a recent article that came out spoke about how freelancing is now becoming the thing and how people are looking for those side hustles, obviously within good reasons and taking into account their talents and their strengths. I think we should look at exploring and diversifying as opposed to saying, I'm going to leave my job altogether. I want us to speak about the international prospects from companies abroad, Johann, and how they are currently looking for South African skills. And if this has anything to do with this, does it at all have anything to do with this?
I don't think it currently is a reason why this is happening. I do think it's an opportunity. South Africa has a lot of entrepreneurial people. We have great skills. We have people who can do great work. And competitively, in terms of rates, if we compare ourselves to many of the other markets in the world. So we are well placed to be able to offer talent to the rest of the world. And this was always hard in the past because mostly hiring was done on site. But now that we've moved into a world where it's remote, where so much can be done without needing to be on site, where there are many collaboration tools, this is definitely something that we are seeing where there's demand from markets like UK, Australia, more developed markets who like the people that we have here in terms of skills and the rates that we can offer, but given that we can still make good money in rands, but it helps them a lot in terms of their pounds and Australian dollars. So I think it's going to be a growth segment for us, and we're going to see more and more of this happening.
All right, then. So just in closing, let us know what companies need to prioritize from a mental health perspective, more so now with the results of this research coming out. And then lastly, if you can let us know where we can catch you and the work that you do. Yeah,
thanks very much. I think from a mental health perspective, that's not my particular area of expertise, but certainly, a lot is done by employers, and we can commend them for that in terms of getting people remote and trying to look after and making sure that people can continue to work and the companies can continue to function. But COVID's been with us for so long that they really need to be listening to their employees, their cries for help. These examples of pressure doing 4 people's work, these are not uncommon. And so they need to find ways to relieve this pressure. And I think certainly, I'm not saying they haven't been trying, but when you only look at permanent employment options, that becomes difficult. They should definitely be looking at the contract market. They should be definitely looking at services like we can provide to try and relieve that pressure, because these are all interlinked. The pressure, the burnout, the unhappiness, the people looking for variation. So these are things that they should consider, and definitely, that's their HR should now be attuned to that. To the employees out there, I guess the thing is you need to know that there are options, and as the callers have said, you need to prioritize yourself. But I would say, plan ahead. In terms of how we can help, we're on outsized.com. Well, please go to our website, take a look at what we've got there in terms of tips for anybody who'd be considering making a professional move into independent consulting. On the mental health side, look, I think, we still deal with stigma in this country, but I would say reach out to whoever you can to talk about this. As you can hear, there are many out there.
And look after yourself, which is also very important. Johann van Niekerk is the MD of Outsized. Johann, thank you so much for making the time and engaging us this afternoon.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.